Hey guys, what's up? This is Simon from DevDectic with another video tutorial on how to display your Twitter feed inside your Ionic app. And this time we will use the ng Cordova OAuth plugin to make signed requests to the Twitter REST API and display the Twitter feed of a user. So let's start with a simple blank app. And we give it an app name, my Twitter feed. So as I said, we need to include ng Cordova once our project is ready, and we need this in-app browser plugin to display everything properly. So we start with copy paste this and add the Cordova plugin. And next we will install the ng Cordova with the Boa package manager. And additionally we will install Angular resource and save it to our file. Come on. As we need the resource of Angular to make good calls to the REST API, not the simple HTTP way. You will see it when we use it. So whatever, take the newest one. Okay, so now we are set up and we can go and atom once. So okay, first of all we need to include those things before the Cordova includes, so add those things. In your Ionic app they are located under lib ng Cordova dist ng Cordova JS. Okay, as I said, we installed the Angular resource, so we need to include that as well. So take Angular resource and Angular resource JS. Okay, now we need a third one. So as I said, we are going to use the Twitter API, and for Twitter we need this SHA-1 or general this signing. So you can go to the GitHub page of this project, download it, and once you have downloaded it, I already did, you can go to the source and copy that one. So copy the file into our lib folder. www lib obviously, and now the files here. So make sure to include that one as well. Okay, maybe we put it before Cordova, I'm not sure if that's important. So currently we just have our app.js, but we will need a controller and we will need a service, so I already write it down. We will create the files soon. So not here, obviously here we will have a controllers file, and we will have services. Okay, we can already add those files. Oh, come on, controllers. And services. Okay, so now we got our app, our controllers, and our services. Everything's fine. Missing circle. Okay, so next we're gonna add our dependencies to our Angular module. So go to your angular.module, and after Ionic we need ng resource and we need ng Cordova. Okay, so let's go ahead. As we want to connect to the Twitter API, you need to make sure you got a Twitter app. So you can go to the application management of Twitter and just create a very simple app. So in my case, this is my app, description, website, it's not very important, but the callback URL must be set to localhost callback, and as Twitter does not allow to set this URL, I just gave that URL to tinyurl, and that's what came out. So this is just localhost callback. So make sure you have set this one. Afterwards, you will need the consumer key and the consumer secret key, so you can access those keys here on your own app. Okay, if you set up that app, we are ready to take it one step further. So as we want to connect the REST API, we will make a simple factory called Twitter service, and we need some dependencies. So we need Cordova or auth, and we need Cordova or auth. Oh, come on, that's wrong. Or auth utility to make some signed requests, and I'm not quite sure if we even going to use this, but for a while let's include it. And Q. So that's our factory. First of all, we make some variables which we can then use in our factory. So the Twitter key is just whatever you want it to be. That's just for saving and accessing your stored keys, so that's not very important. You can leave it to that if you want. So the next one is your client ID. So your client ID can be accessed on your Twitter application management, as I said before, and the client secret can be accessed from that page as well. I won't enter my ones here because you should keep them secret. Okay, so some basic functions. When we have some key from the OAuth authentication, we want to store it into our window.local storage, just because it's easier to access them from there if the user once has accepted our app and gave the permissions to it. And we will set it for the Twitter key, which we have here described. So JSON stringify your data, and everything will be saved into your local storage. And obviously we need get stored token just to grab our token from our window local storage. Nope. Okay, well, we should make it clear. So that's fine for now. Okay, so the third one is another general one, but it's one of the most important from this tutorial, and this will be to create Twitter signature for a given method and an URL. Okay. In this function, we want to make an OAuth object and sign our requests, as Twitter requires special signing of requests. So you can't just send in a request and get something back. You have to do a bit more than that. So first of all, we try to get our stored token. And next we will create an OAuth object which will have some special things. So first of all, it will have an OAuth consumer key. That's just our client ID. It has some random created nonce, and for this we will use Cordova OAuth utility create nonce. Okay, we need our signature method. That's why we included those library from GitHub, you remember? And now we need the OAuth token of our user, so that's the one we got from our local storage. And we need a timestamp. Yeah, Twitter is very clear. Math round. Okay, let's make a new date. That brackets get time divided. Okay, that must be enough brackets, I guess. Yeah. Okay, and finally the OAuth version which we're using, it's 1.0. So that's our OAuth object. Okay, this object now will be given to another function from the Cordova OAuth utility called create signature. I guess it was done by Nick some weeks or months ago. So thank you, Nick, for this one. And here we give in our method, URL, our OAuth object, an empty object, our client secret, and finally from the token we got from our local storage, the OAuth token secret. Okay, the last thing we need to do is the last thing we need to do is set our headers of our HTTP requests, and we need to set the authorization header to our signature object dot authorization header. So now we can make requests to the Twitter API, which will be signed correctly with some useful things Twitter needs, obviously, and that's one of the most important things in this service. Okay, why is this red? I have no idea. Well, for now, let's just continue, I guess. Is there any problem? I can't see no problem. JS Hint, what's your problem? I don't know. Let's continue. Okay. So first of all, we got our initialize function. Initialize. And this function will be called on our app startup to check if the user is already authenticated, and if not, authenticate the user. So first of all, we want to return a promise, so we get qdefer, and we try to grab the token from our local storage. So if our token is not null, we just resolve our deferred. So obviously our user is already authenticated. At that point you could make sure in the real app that the stored token is really, that it's accepted by Twitter, so you can verify the token once you have grabbed it from there. Okay, in the other case we want to authenticate our user, and for this we can just use Cordova OAuth, not OAuth utility, Twitter, and here we just give in our client ID and our client secret, and we chain it with the result. So hopefully the result were true. We just expect it in our case, and we store our user token just in the result, and we resolve our promise. Yeah, fine. And we will use this error. So if anything goes wrong, we should reject our promise. Okay, so that was that. And finally, we just need to return our promise. Okay, that was our initialize function. Next one is checking if the user is already authenticated. So our is authenticated function will just return if we can grab a token from the local storage. So if it's equal null, the user is obviously not authenticated, and if it's not equal null, we expect the user to be authenticated. Okay, and the last one is the one we will really use from our controller. It's the get home timeline. So in this function we finally will set the home timeline URL, and you can have a look at all those Twitter REST API routes or whatever and see what fits your needs. So for this case we will just use api.twitter.com new version and statuses and home timeline.json. And now we can just call our cool create Twitter signature function with get, as we want to get those data and our URL. And finally we return a resource object. That's why we included Angular resource in the first place, which will call the home timeline URL, and as we only need to get data, we can already call query. So finally we just need to write down the functions we defined above to access them from outside of our service. Okay, oh, come on. So I guess almost that should be all. Okay, so what's wrong with that one in here? I have no idea. Missing semicolon. No, we don't need a semicolon there. We need just the dot factory and Twitter service. Well, whatever, we will see it when we run it later on, I guess. So that's our Twitter service for now. Next thing we're gonna do is add a controller. So we start with a simple controller, which is called the app controller, and we will have a function with something inside, and oh, maybe that one is missing. No, that one's not missing. Well, I'm not sure. So in our controller we need the scope, we need the Ionic platform, and we need our Twitter service. Okay, so well, we can start with the Ionic platform ready function. In which we will just check if our user, oh, come on, give me some completion, is authenticated. And if that's true, we will just start our, no, we will, okay. So here we will call a function which will fill our timeline feed home. Okay, and this one's very straightforward. Just call the Twitter service and get home timeline. Perfect. So if the user is not authenticated, we need our Twitter service and call initialize, and then we will check if our result is true, so the user was authenticated correct, and then call scope show home timeline. We won't handle the error case here because whatever, you can do that in a real application. Okay, so for now our controller should be, oh no, well, there's some things we need to include already. So one thing is the date from the Twitter service is very unformatted, and for that we need to correct the time string, and we will do that with a very simple function and just return a new date and parse the string we get from Twitter. So we will call that from our view. Okay, make it correctly. And the very last thing we need to do is we will have a refresher in our view, so we can add the pull to refresh, which we'll call the do refresh in our controller, and that one will do just show home timeline. And well, we could make it then and stuff like that, but for the scope of this article we will just broadcast the finished event right after we called that one. So you need to broadcast scroll.refresh complete. So the pull to refresh will disappear. Okay, that's our controller. Now the last thing we need to do is show the feeds inside our view. So go to our index, set it, well, where's my title? Whatever. My Twitter feed. So we need to assign the ng controller to this one, which is our app controller. And we need an Ion content with some class set to, well, it has a header and some padding is always good. And come on. The first thing we're gonna add is our Ion refresher, just because it's very simple. Just add Ion refresher and set on refresh. We want to call our do refresh function. Okay, so if we're not having any feeds right now, we want to show a simple message, so make a div with ng show and we check for our home timeline equals 0. So in that case we will display loading tweets. Okay, now to the heart of our view. This will be an ng repeat over all the content we get. So it will be entry in home timeline. And we will use the Ionic cards, so we make it list card. Okay. Okay. So inside, as I said, we want to have some cards, and we will set an item avatar on our card. Which will have an image which we get from our entry. So you can have a look at the response from Twitter and see what you can use from all those things. So in that case we use the user.profile image URL, and after the image we want to set the header of our card, which will be entry.user.name, very simple. And we want to set the time string, so we make the correct time string, the function we implemented into our controller, and give it the entry.created_add, and we will apply a filter to that one. It's just Angular default stuff, so it looks good. Okay, so that's the item avatar, and now we come to the item body, which will hold our message. Yeah, we can just say entry.text. Oh, surrounded, whatever. And finally, I wanted to add the image of the article. So sometimes tweets have an image, and if that's the case, so ngIf entry.extended entities, if that one's set, we will set an image to the entry dot extended entities dot media at the position 0 dot media URL. Okay, is there anything one? Yeah, quotes. And we need to fit it to our views, so set the width to 100. So that should be fine. Okay, so if we close our div, I guess we're quite done now. Is that one? Yeah, the ng repeat needs to be closed as well. So now we are fine. Okay, so for you, now you can include your client ID and secret ID and launch your app. So I will do that as well and come back once my app is loaded. So in fact, I had some little typos in my services here because I did not write OAuth. So if you're copying this, make sure to also go to my blog and check out the source code from there and add this module to the services and controller, and I had some typo here, I guess. So if you've done everything correct, you can go ahead and add the platform you want to build for. So I'm on a Mac, I will add the iOS platform. So prepare the iOS platform, and finally we can run our app. So we expect to get a login view inside our app on startup, and we should be prompted to enter our Twitter credentials to grant permission to our app we created on Twitter, and finally see our tweets. So yeah, here is our app. It already started, and because we have our authentication check inside our Ionic platform ready function, we are requested to enter our credentials. So I'm gonna enter my credentials now, and we will see what happens. Okay, now let's see what's happening. We authorize the app and we get redirected to our app, and we see some feeds inside our app. Awesome, right? Yes. And finally, we got our Ionic pull to refresh feature up here, so we can pull it down and it will reload the tweets, and if there's anything new it would appear up here. So that's our Twitter feed inside our Ionic app. I hope you liked this tutorial. It was very long for a video tutorial, but you can also check out the complete text on my blog or on the Ionic blog. And if you like this, leave me a comment or tweet me something, and I would be very happy if you follow my channel on YouTube, because there will be much more videos in the future. So thanks for listening and have a nice day.